not all the cosmos was in harmony when Adam and Eve were created. Let us not fail to recall the first disorder in creation by the fallen angels. 1/3 fell with Lucifer, over which God had authority. They wanted to snatch at equality and authority with God. And God, to humble Lucifer, to teach him a crash course in humility, so to speak, allowed an inferior ranked angel to defeat him, namely Michael. Lucifer was a seraph, the highest angel, the highest choir. Michael was an archangel. It's about 4 or 5 ranks below a seraph.
Bless the Lord, O my soul, blessed art thou, Lord.
We have covered a lot about the occult recently, especially the danger for those communicating with the dead, and I really want to thank all of you who continue to give suggestions about what I should cover. But this time, I've put together clips on the guardian angels, and I always love listening to the priests talking and teaching us about them. In fact, there are 2 stories shared by Father Reehil during his radio show on Radio Maria recently. And as always, the links to the full audios can be found in the description box below, so please check them out if you have the time.
I'll tell you a story. When I was in Medjugorje, probably about 10, 12 years ago, there was a very holy priest who lived in Italy, and he was kind of wheelchair bound, couldn't get around. I think he was planning on coming to Medjugorje, but then he got sick and couldn't come. And 2 of the women in Medjugorje that wanted to meet with him were there for that purpose. They were going to meet him in Medjugorje, but then he couldn't come. And they were very upset, that they weren't going to be able to speak with him. And so they decided, let's just rent a car. We'll drive to Italy. We'll go up and around the Adriatic and down the coast of Italy to go see this priest. And before they set out, they sent their angels ahead to tell him of their plans, that they were coming. And don't you know, when they pull up to the gates of the monastery, out at the end of the driveway, down by the road where the gates were, is the priest in his wheelchair, waiting for them. And they said to him, how did you know we were coming at this time? And he says, your angels came and told me, and they alerted me. And so I decided I would come down and meet you at the entrance to the monastery grounds. When you hear stories like that, it's kind of amazing. Also, I once went up that mountain in Medjugorje in my early days of going, before I really had a lay of the land, at night with a couple of seminarians, and we got lost. We went off the path into sort of the woods. And it was not too long before we realized we were off the path and we couldn't find the path. And we're stuck on this mountain, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I did not want to spend the whole night on the mountain. So we prayed to our guardian angels to come and show us the way. Don't you know, a little beagle dog showed up, a little tiny beagle. He said nothing, he did nothing, he just merely came right to us, and he sat down staring at us, and then he got up and turned and started walking away from us, but he stopped and looked back, as if to say, are you going to follow me? So we decide perhaps the dog has a better understanding of the ways of the mountain, so we'll just follow the dog. Hopefully he'll take us down to the base. And that's exactly what he did. He led us back to the trail, and then he led us all the way down the mountain, back to the base of the mountain. I'm not sure if that really was a dog or if it was perhaps an angel in disguise, but either way, it was an answer to prayer that we got off that mountain. And there's many, many, many other stories about angels intercepting into the lives of their ones they guard, the people they protect. I remember as a child, I thought I had a dream. I was falling down the steps. My bedroom was on the 2nd floor. I had a dream. I was falling down these steps, and I was picked up by an angel and carried back to the top of the steps and laid back down on the landing. Well, the funny thing is, I woke up in the morning on the landing. So I never knew, did I actually start falling down the steps and was caught, or did I just dream the whole thing and wound up sitting on the landing of the stairwell? Who knows? I don't know. But these creatures, I tell you, I think we're going to be amazed at the end of life when we look back and see all that they did for us, for our benefit. And I would say for those of us who've had major conversions or have been far away from God, those angels worked even harder than the average angel, because we've put them through it, you could say. So thank your angel today. Acknowledge their presence. Ask for their intercession in your life, and life will be better. Life will be better.
The next one is a very short clip of Father Ripperger from many years ago where he talked about the guardian angels. Listen to this.
How much involvement your guardian angel has in your life aside from what God allows, is directly proportionate, other than, again, what God allows, to how involved you get him in your life. If your complaint is that your guardian angel isn't helping you very much, just go stand in the mirror to look for the cause. Because the fact is that if you were praying to him more, he would be able to communicate with you more. You would be empowering him more by asking him to help you, asking him to give you this enlightening, this understanding. You'd empower him to actually help you more. If you never pay any attention to him, he's just not going to be able to help you very much, because your relationship with him is largely on your side. He's willing to be completely involved in your life, but how much he's involved in your life is really up to you. Unfortunately, most people don't hardly pay any attention to their guardian angel.
There are a few more stories from the priests I've included in the compilation this time, a lot of very interesting ones, but let me share this reminder from Father Paul first, and it's a very good reminder for you and me.
And at our birth, everyone is given a guardian angel, where our Lord seeks to help us achieve the means of salvation, or come to know salvation through God's Son. And this is an important thing that all persons kind of must come to realize, and as they journey in their life, to have respect for the guardian angel who's present. This is kind of an important thing as we think about how we speak, how we act, how we live. All of this should show a certain reverence and respect for the guardian angel that is present. For the angels are there to lead us toward God and toward salvation. The angels always lead us to follow God's commandments. And if you're not Catholic, they lead you into the church for your own salvation. And St. Bernard has this beautiful statement where he says, the angels are here. They are at your side. They are with you, present on your behalf. In this way, this is the reality of how our Lord seeks to sanctify and save us, and he gives us help on the way to help guide us and lead us. So may we always reverence and respect the guardian angel who is present and invisible in your midst.
And there's this clip from Father Cole I really like, how the guardian angels are helping us in our lives, basically the roles of the angels in our lives.
Well, first of all, he can influence me away from physical dangers. If I'm caught in a flood, or if I'm caught someplace else and I have to get out of it, he can influence my imagination and my memory to think of going in a particular direction that will save me. That'd be the first thing. He can actually interfere physically and take me away, which is miraculous. That's rare, very rare. He can also protect me from falling into sin by making suggestions that I not go there. You know, again, it's persuasive. I can still refuse. In fact, St. Thomas teaches quite clearly that when we get an actual grace from God, it comes to us through the angels. That's in the question 109 someplace. And he can do that by reason of the fact that God gives him the light to be able to do a thing like that. He strengthens our light. When people come to confession to me and complain about their kids driving them nuts at home, whether they be teenagers or children who are acting up all the time and they're getting upset, and I always ask the question, well, how many people live in your house? And they will tell me well, there's 6 of us, myself, my husband, and 4 children. And then I like to correct them, and I say, you're wrong. They're not 6 persons in your house, they're 12. You've got 6 others in your house, and those are angels. Pray to them. Get them involved in your life, because they bring illumination, lights. They strengthen your ability to make more prudent decisions. They strengthen your ability to how to guide your household accordingly. They might even prevent you from getting into massive arguments with your husband or your wife and the like. They may make suggestions. Does that mean you're living in perfection? No. But more often than not, they're more willing to help you than you're willing to ask them for help, because God gave them to you precisely to aid you in the daily grind of your life, in marriage, single state, religious state, priestly life, etc., etc., etc. But that takes us off into the blue yonder of angels, guardian angel.
And then there's this one from Father Iannuzzi on how the choirs of angels were formed, based on the different extensions of knowledge God gave to the angels.
The paradisiacal Garden of Eden that is still there and still teeming with animals, but without humans because of original sin. We will repossess that place when Christ returns for the second time in the flesh. The book of Genesis states that it is still there, untouched, unspoiled, unblemished, with a cherub guarding its entrance with a flaming sword. Why is this cherub guarding its entry? So no one will enter until Christ comes back the second time in the flesh for the general judgment. Then, when we are sent to our places, of our bodies are sent definitively to their definitive states of damnation or salvation, those sent to salvation will now be able to move at the speed of thought. They will be able to go to God's abode, depending upon how much knowledge they have of his will and how much they lived in his will, the higher they approach that abode. The reason why the choirs of angels were formed was because of the different extensions of knowledge I gave them. To some choirs, I gave more extensions of knowledge, to other choirs, less. See the key word expression God uses? It depends upon the extensions of knowledge I gave them. It doesn't say they acquired, because it's a gift. It's not a virtue. So God freely chose angels for different choirs. Now, some of you may automatically think, wait a minute, that's not fair. Suppose I'm created and I want to be closer to God's holy abode, but I'm not because God chose to put me in a lower. That's not how they think or experience God in heaven. How can they both be perfectly happy when they're not objectively filled with the same knowledge? Because they're both filled to the brim. As long as they're filled, they have perfect bliss. If they're empty, they're not perfectly happy. But if this one's perfectly filled and this one's perfectly filled, they don't care where they are. That's how the joy in heaven is experienced. They're all filled to the brim, overflowing with God's love in their own different capacities. So God did not give this glass this capacity, and he did not give this glass this capacity. He gave them different capacities. So they don't desire anything other than the capacity God gave them. And they're perfectly happy with what God chose. That's how they experience beatitude in heaven.
There's this question Father Ripperger asked during his lecture on the guardian angels that I really like. It's another very short clip, and the question he asked during the lecture was this: when was the last time you talked to your guardian angel?
Ask your guardian angel, or the guardian angel of your family. He knows what it is. He's dealing with the guy. He sees him. He sees what he's doing to your family. He sees what he's doing to you. So you can ask him, okay, what is, show me what this actually is. Now, this means obviously you have to have a certain devotion to your guardian angel. Most people say, my guardian angel doesn't tell me a thing. When was the last time you talked to him? Never have. Well, there you go. Okay. So the point being is that as you work with your guardian angel a lot, they'll more likely to give you those inclinations and to do those particular things that are necessary to help you to discern this particular thing that's in your family. So you can actually guardian angel, devotion to the saints, etc.
And the bond we have with our guardian angels on earth will continue for eternity. Just think about that, for eternity.
Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, in her writing, she teaches, she was taken to heaven, she was taken to Eden, she was taken all over the place. And she saw that in heaven, the bonds that are forged on earth continue in the next life. And the angels and the saints will recognize those people as being bonded on earth. So even though there's no marriage in heaven, like Jesus says, the bond that was made on earth continues throughout eternity between those individuals, even between you and your guardian angel, between husband and wife, between parent and daughter, son, etc.
And in the following clip of Father Reehil, he reminded us about the guardian angels, that while they are with us every second of the day, they are not here to judge us.
These are perfect spiritual beings. They don't have gender, they're genderless, but we can refer to them as his or her or whatever. Your angel was assigned to you at birth and will be with you all the way through your life, even through purgatory if you go there. Of course, they do not accompany you to hell. If you are destined for hell, you're on your own. A very generous provision that God has afforded all of us. They're both watching over their person, but also looking upon the face of their Father, Heavenly Father in heaven. So they have access to the throne room. So ask your angel to intercede for you. Acknowledge your angel. They love to be acknowledged. Thank them for the work they do for you. I think we're going to be absolutely amazed at the end of life when we see all the things the angels did for us, all the inspirations we were given by them, all the protection they afforded us from dangerous situations, both physical and spiritual. And their job is to lead us back to heaven. So if you had a bodyguard, if you had a personal bodyguard that was with you 24 hours a day, on the one hand, you'd be very happy to know you're protected. But then some people might feel like there's an invasion of privacy. To be with you 24 hours a day, every minute of the day would be a lot. However, these angels are with you 24 hours a day, but here's the good news. They're not here to judge you. They have no judgment. They do not look at you with any kind of criticism. They act with perfect love for you. They keep perfect confidentiality with perfection about you, and their only care is for your well-being, because that's the mission they've been given by God, is your protection and well-being, and to guide you to get safely home to heaven. And so that's what they do. They have an incredibly keen and powerful intellect, and they're perfectly united to the will of God. And so I don't think, as I mentioned, I don't think we'll understand fully until we get to heaven all that they did for us throughout our lives. The battle is against powers and principalities in the spirit realm. Paul tells us that. And so they're engaged in that battle as well for your benefit, for your going to heaven. So very powerful, very wonderful creatures, and everybody has assigned their own. So you have an angel sitting right next to you, but also looking upon the face of God our Father. They assist God in his mission. So one of the things Jesus does is he's trying to seek out the lost sheep and bring them back to the fold. And so guardian angels do that when we stray from God. They're constantly trying to get us back to the Holy Trinity. And their role is sent to guard and protect us. Sent to guard and protect us. Again, in the providence of the divine mind of God, the angels were created for many functions, but among them, the welfare and protection of human beings. So isn't that wonderful? Aren't we blessed to have such wonderful creatures looking out for us?
And then there's another beautiful story I want to share with you, this time a clip of Father Jose Fortea. Listen to this.
There are many stories about that in the world. Even for me, I think there was once that I doubt such a person was a real person and not an angel, because angels, when appear to help, they appear dressed normally as a human person, and they disappear. That is the reason many people know that was an angel. But they help us more than we think. In one time, I'm almost sure that was an angel. It was a very hard situation. I was completely lost, and the person that came to me from the very first moment surprised me very much for his face. His face was spreading love, spreading so many good things, that I was surprised just for the face of that old man that came directly to me to help me. Sure that if you are friends of the angels, they will help you in many ways.
And then here's another story from Father Reehil. As I said, I really love listening to stories like this.
Now, when we talk about the ways they work, on a trip with seminarians and young men who were discerning priesthood, there was about 30 of us. Father Charles Mangano had organized this trip from New York, and he did this for many years. He would take anybody who had thinking they had a vocation to priesthood and see if that would help their discernment process. But this one particular day, this is back, maybe 20 years ago, I was with two other young men, and we were walking through the vineyard. And back then, the vineyards were pretty big. There was no real building going on at the time in those fields. So you could walk for quite a while through the vineyard to get from the church all the way to the back area where the mountain is. And it was particularly hot one day, and we were talking about, something that we were in one of these groups where we were sharing, our stories about our lives. And this one guy said, man, the more I look over my life, the more I'm seeing, there's a lot of sins I probably haven't confessed that I really should confess. And the other guy said, well, we weren't particularly close to the church. We were way out in this field. And he said, well, we can ask our angels to send you a priest. And I'm thinking, that doesn't sound very practical. If you're holding out for that, you're probably not going to go to confession. But I didn't voice my opinion. I just was thinking very skeptically that that's never going to happen. But we prayed the prayer. We asked our guardian angels to go bring us a priest for this other guy. And we sat down and just started talking. And about a minute later, out from behind these grapevines appears a priest. And we just stared at him. And he said, "Which one of you wanted to have your confession?" And we both looked at the other guy and pointed at him. And then we both ran out of there. Because it's very shocking when something like that happens. You're just amazed that that sort of thing actually can occur, where the angels actually go get a priest and inform him he needs to go hear a confession. It's out in the vineyard. I mean, we use the word crazy, but I guess it's not so crazy if you're the angel and you're just responding to doing something that's going to be pleasing to God. When you hear these stories of how God can do these things, really fascinating. Now, is that going to happen every time? No, the angels do not work on demand. It's not like, clicking on a cable channel and watching a movie when you feel like it. But there are times when these things will edify and build up people's faith, and God will use them, particularly when there's no other way to do something.
Father Lampert, a priest I've learned a lot from and really respect, and I really am disappointed that I could only have one interview session with him before his retirement as an exorcist last year. Anyway, here's a good reminder from him before.
Whenever the demonic is around, I think there's that sense of fear in us. We just know that there's something wrong. I think when we're aware of the angelic, the angels that are with us, our guardian angels, there's a sense of peace. When it comes to our guardian angels, 3 words come to mind. Our guardian angels help to instruct us, in the ways of God. They inspire us to be godly people, and they illumine us. They constantly enlighten us so that we can live out our lives in the glory of God. So inspire, instruct, illumine. They help us to grow in holiness and virtue. When demonic creatures are around, there's a sense of, there's the deception and division, despair, discouragement. It's almost like, somebody throwing a wet blanket on us. But when there's an angelic creature present, there just seems to be a sense of peace and calm. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything is going perfectly in our lives, but we know that we're rooted in God. And because we're rooted in God, no matter what plays out in our lives, we know that God ultimately is in control. And if God is in control, there's really nothing to fear.
And I'm so glad that Father Reehil actually reminding people out there that when we die, we don't become angels, which is something Hollywood has been doing for a long time now, often depicting people as angels when they die.
We hear this all the time in the movies, but also at funerals. People say, "Oh, heaven has a new angel when somebody dies," a human being. This is not true. Human beings are always human beings. And at the end of time, we will be reunited with a glorified body, a body better than the one you had in this life. Okay? No aging, no death, no disease. The angels were all created in one single moment at the beginning of creation before the material world. All the angels were created at once. They do not multiply. They do not propagate. They do not have children. They were created once and done. That's it. And so when we die and go to heaven, hopefully, we go with just our spirit, our soul goes to heaven. But we can be seen by others in heaven. There's some kind of a form that we have, even though we don't have our bodies. Okay? Then at the end of time, we will be united with our new bodies, the glorified bodies, which they will look similar to what we looked like, but better, new and improved, you could say. So that's something to look forward to. And these bodies will be at the perfect age, let's say 30 years old, before any real aging begins in people. I know it's not true for everybody. Some people get gray hair right away in their teens and 20s, but the bodies will have no aging in them. They will be perfect. So do not say when somebody dies that they become an angel. They don't. And, there's nothing against the angels. This isn't a slight to them. When the Word became flesh and dwelt among us in the person of Jesus Christ, he elevated humanity above the angels, because now there is a human being who is both human and divine, who is sitting on the throne of God, and that is Jesus Christ. So he's elevated humanity up to the throne of God. by taking humanity to himself. So this is, important to recognize that fact when we talk about the angels.
And the last clip of Father Reehil that I want to share with you in this compilation, it's going to be a little bit similar to that clip of Father Lampert earlier. Listen to this.
So it's very good to acknowledge your angels and God, first of all, God, but then his beautiful creatures, the angels, and all they do for us. And it would be good about the amazing truth that both the angels but also the demons are active in your life, seeking to influence you. You could say Lucifer was the original influencer and still is today, very busy influencing many. So ponder the spiritual role of your angels in your life, of God's angels in your life, and consider the various ways you can learn more about them. There's many good books about angels you can read. You can even go into Thomas Aquinas' treatise on the angels. And you can acknowledge your guardian angel. They like to be acknowledged. It's not a pride thing. They just, it's nice to be thanked on occasion for the work you're doing. And you can even ask for the intercession of the highest degrees of angels to join them in their divine worship. So when you go to pray, you can ask if you can join in their divine worship before the throne and pray for their protection. And, of course, ask them to communicate to you the highest truths of our faith and things about God. They can impart knowledge. They can do that. And be attentive to the holy angels so that you can learn to discern their voices and their actions and follow the direction they give to you from God himself. This is how you can grow in the perfections of the kingdom of God. What a great way to live your life, really embracing all the different avenues that God sends us help and wisdom and protection.
And here's another reminder for you as well. This time is asking our angels to help us out with our prayers when we're busy.
No one's perfect in this life, and I'm not standing on a pedestal as someone that is. I'm just emphasizing this to introduce the theme of common sense. One of the criteria for determining a true from a false divine messenger is mental balance. That's the word the Vatican uses, mental balance. And it gives examples like looking for God in the clouds, in formations of the clouds, or in reflections of the glass, or in impressions on a rose petal. God can appear in the cloud, and he has, I'm sure, as well as on a reflection of a glass, as well as in a rose petal. But your focus is not on trying to find God in these material things. The focus is to be on interior union and not rely upon external confirmations all the time. Those people who emphasize, we need this we need the sign, their emphasis is misplaced. And therefore, this is where common sense comes in, mental balance, which the church extends to us through its documents. And this may roll over into ideas of scrupulosity sometimes, fearing that if I don't do this or do that, I may be displeasing to God. And if I don't do this in a certain way, for example, or I may fail to meet the mark of virtue the Lord expects of me. For example, let's say you have the Stations of the Cross or a devotion like the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. And the good Lord wants us to have a spiritual itinerary and remain faithful to it. But if certain extenuating circumstances arise, and we cannot do these as we intend, to ask your guardian angel to help you. Because if you do your best, God does the rest. So if I have an intention to do, let's say, 4 rosaries, and I have pastoral emergencies that interrupt that, I can ask my angel to help me with these prayers that I can't do. It's a pious practice. It's a wholesome practice. Rather than worry and be anxious, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, I didn't do this. Certainly we should be doing that as a standard, whatever we commit to. But if something comes up, I'm giving a small example, then we shouldn't become unnerved by it. And this is part of common sense. I remember Pope John Paul II, when I had met him on one of maybe 7 occasions, I don't remember how many, and he traveled the world more than any pope. He was really the pilgrim pope. And he had his own list of prayers to do every day. When I was in his chapel, his private chapel, where he said morning mass, after the mass, he greeted me and my dad. He gave us a rosary, and I looked at his prie-dieu. For those of you who don't know what the prie-dieu is, in French, it means it's for God. It's kneeling. It's a kneeler with a little cushion for the elbow, cushion for the knee. It's an isolated kneeler.
that he would kneel before the Blessed Sacrament on after the Mass when he was in communion meditation. And on that kneeler where the elbows are, he had a list of intentions. I went over and peeked at them because I was like, what does he have on his tape? And there was the names of these people. I don't know who they were, but you could see there were intentions he was reciting every day. Now, he mentioned in some of his writings, his letters of exchange, that sometimes he wasn't able to get in everything he intended to do during the day, but that he would entrust this to God, the saints to help him as angels to pray when he wasn't able to fulfill these prayers. So if you ask your angel to help you, either he will work the events in your day in such a way where something may be postponed or may be accelerated where you can get all your prayers in, or he can pray with and for you. That's something that's commonsensical that we should avail ourselves of.
And just remember that angels and saints are not going to stop growing in knowledge in heaven. Listen to this.
The angels and saints continue to grow in knowledge. They don't stop because God is an inexhaustible, eternal source. He has no beginning, no end. So if he has no end, then we can never arrive and say, I contain all the truth, I'm done. Because we're constantly growing. And that's why heaven is a dynamism. It's ongoing for all eternity and growth. One advantage they have is they enjoy the beatific vision, which we don't. And that beatific vision imparts to the rational soul, whether it's an angel or a human, what's known as impeccability, immutability, incorruptibility, immortality, and impassibility. We don't enjoy any of these. We can enjoy immutability on the inside only, but in heaven they don't age. It's not like they get old or anything. So their bodies enjoy that immutability as well. They don't experience any suffering. That's impassibility. When Christ came to earth, he experienced everything we experience. It's aging, suffering, death.
For the last clip in this compilation, I'm going to share this one with you on angels having meeting in heaven, shared by Father Iannuzzi. Listen to this.
Now, I always wondered, what do the angels and saints in heaven do? We know that they are in God's divine presence, enjoying the beatific mode, but in human terms, what do they do? Do they have meetings? Do they do errands, Angels, of course, do errands. They're called messengers. That's what angel means. They're sent on on errands to carry out tasks. And what do the others do? The saints do in heaven. I asked that to a mystic whose writings have the imprimatur Reehil obsta, and she told me, actually, my angel once said to me, I have a meeting to attend to now in heaven. I have to go. So yes, there are meetings in heaven. Of course, it's not a CEO corporate business meeting where they have minutes and all that, and we review the bylaws and articles of incorporation, a 501c3 status and all that. No. We're talking about divine missions in heaven, divine meetings where they concur with each other, they talk, and they communicate in God's one eternal will. And that's interesting. Remember, in the next life, there is no static existence. There is no irreformable state of being. Rather, it's a dynamism. It's an ongoing, continuous expansion in God's one eternal will. Years ago, artists would portray statues. You'll see them today in basilicas and churches of a saint sleeping, lying on its side with its cheek in its palm, with its eyes closed, as if to indicate it's enjoying its eternal rest, its perpetual rest. It's enjoying leisure perpetually. Well, that's not really the way heaven is. Yes, there is a rest in God in the sense that there's no more toil, there's no more labor, there's no more pain or suffering or taxes, no. But the saints in heaven work more intensely than they did on earth. This is found in the writings of many saints. Saint Therese, for example, says, when I die, my mission will begin from heaven.
Well, I guess that is all for the video this time. Again, thanks so much for your time spent here with us, and hopefully all of you have learned a lot from this one. I'll always try to improve how I deliver these information from time to time. If you feel like supporting the works here, please consider supporting us on Patreon or making a donation to PayPal. But if you can't, still I want to thank all of you for your continuous support, contributions, and prayers. Much love to all of you, and may God bless you.